I lived the first 20 years of my life not knowing that I had anything, I had muscular dystrophy. It wasn't until I was in my college years where things that I used to do, participating in sports and things like that were getting more difficult and I was falling and I didn't know why. And then you get diagnosed with this uh, degenerative muscle wasting disease and there's no cure and there's no treatment. And it's like, well, all right, now what? And I'm already at that point in my life where, when you're in your college years, your early 20s. I mean, this is where you're it's a scary world to begin with. And now this disease is put on top of me. And I think the 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 big thing for me was when the doctor said, "Well, there's nothing you can do." To me, it was like, well, all right, well, then I'm just going to keep going and doing what I always did. And we'll take all the difficulties, we'll take all the challenges as they come. I still had this dream of being a sportscaster. I mean, this is an incredibly difficult profession to excel at. And even if you're good, sometimes you need a lot of breaks, right? To go your way. You really need to work hard. You really need to follow every avenue you can.
Jay Horwitz, a special edition of Amazing Conversation with longtime Nets radio voice Chris Carrino. Chris, have we ever met before? I don't think in person. No, I mean,
I was thinking about this, Jay. We didn't meet, but uh, you did a favor for me. I'm going to say this is about my son's 21 now. He was about 9 or 10, and I did a game in Atlanta. I had a Falcons game, an NFL game in Atlanta, and I took my son with me for the weekend. And the Mets were in town, and my friend Dan Harris at the Nets called you,
good. Dad's a
and
good man. You
yeah,
know,
and he left, and you were kind enough to leave me a couple of tickets for me and my son, and we got to go to see a Braves Mets game at the old Turner Field.
yeah.
And
That was the
yeah,
house of
so
horrors for us, Chris. That wasn't a good
well,
place. That wasn't a
um,
good place.
I
I have so
confess,
many good friends with the Nets. I used to go, Jimmy Lamparello is a good friend of mine, Lou Terminella, John Mertz, we're all good friends of mine. I think I told you a story of before that I used to come to the games late, and I used to sit right next to Mertz by the scores table, and he used to order me 2 hot dogs, fries, and a Coke. At one time, Calipari, the smell bothered him, so he asked me to leave the premises because the smell was not good. So that, and I got to
that
be,
that you should have
Willis
known better, Jay. Come on, you
and
should have known
Chuck
better.
Daly for the whole bit. So I went to a lot of games. It was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, well, I was going to say before I have to confess, I'm not a Met fan. I root for the Mets. I'm not one of those Yankee fans who hates the Mets. I want to
Well,
say that off the bat, but I am a tried and true diehard Yankee fan. But I'm a huge baseball fan, so it was a
well,
thrill to go see a Braves game in Atlanta at Turner Field, and we were rooting for the Mets, though.
Chris, can I tell you my story before we start? Why
Yeah.
I admire you so much. Been at the job for 20 plus years. Radio stuff, doing NFL games on radio, going to the Olympics. I was born with a handicap. Okay, when my mother carried me, I had glaucoma in my right eye, and when I was 13, the doctor said to me, told my parents that either have my right eye removed or I could go totally blind. So since I was 13, I had an artificial eye. It wasn't until about 8 or 9, 10 years ago. No, it was earlier than that. That I wrote a book about my memories with the Mets. Nothing killing anybody, just Terry Collins, 9/11, blah 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 blah. And one of the reasons I wrote that book, I was hoping to be an example to people who weren't born 100%, without a disability. And I've tried to be an example that you can succeed in this business. And you're living proof. I read it. You came down with muscular dystrophy. You were in college. You persevered, and you've been at the job, killing it for so many years. That's why I'm so identified with what you did. And because honestly, I was afraid to tell people that I had an artificial eye. Anybody looking at me knew I had a disability. I was sitting in the press box with binoculars. And I said, listen, I'm not going to be on the cover of Vogue or anything. He said, let me tell my story and hopefully
Yeah.
it'll help some people. When you told your, was that one of the reasons why you told your story when it first went public?
I don't know if it was so much to, I- what happens is you do things for a reason, and then there's residual effects that you never imagined. And the thing with me was, I lived the first 20 years of my life not knowing that I had anything. I had muscular dystrophy. I didn't. It wasn't until I was in my college years where I just things that I used to do, participating in sports and things like that were getting more difficult, and I was falling, and I didn't know why. And then you get diagnosed with this uh, degenerative muscle wasting disease, and there's no cure and there's no treatment, and it's like, well, all right, now what? And I'm already at that point in my life where when you're in your college years, your early 20s. I mean, this is where you're it's a scary world to begin with. And now this disease is put on top of me. And I think the the big thing for me was when the doctor said, well, there's nothing you can do. To me, it was like, well, all right, well, then I'm just going to keep going and doing what I always did. And we'll take all the difficulties, we'll take all the challenges as they come. I still had this dream of being a sportscaster. I mean, this is an incredibly difficult profession to excel at. And even if you're good, sometimes you need a lot of breaks, right? To go your way. You really need to work hard. You really need to follow every avenue you can. I still had dreams of, falling in love one day, meeting a woman that everybody else kind of takes for granted. Now I had this thing on top of it. Like, if I ever meet someone, they've got to know what's happening with me. We got to know that this could affect us going forward in a family. So how am I going to reach that? How am I going to find that person, right? All these things are in your head in your early 20s. And, uh, but I just said, hey, what can I do? All right, I can't do anything. All right, I'll just plow ahead. And as things started to become a little more difficult, luckily I'd already established myself. I had, you know, gotten on the path of being a sportscaster. Um, and then you get it to a point where it's like I can't hide it from people anymore. It's impacting my life more than I want to admit. I'm not being open and honest about it with people. And it was my wife who challenged me when I got to be 40 years old. I call it my midlife crisis. She challenged me. She's like, you have to share this with people now. It might not help. It could help you. It could also help other people.
Right.
And always in the back of my mind, I said, when I get a name in this business, and I have a place where my name is recognizable, I want to do something to make an impact on this disease. I always had at the back of my mind, well, I'll start a foundation. Maybe we can
But
raise some money.
2011, right? You started it.
2011, I was 41 years old. It was like maybe we can raise some money and for research. I don't know. I was a little intimidated. I was like, well, can I really have an impact on medical research? That might take tens of millions of dollars. And I was talking to a neurologist one day and I was telling him my idea, and he was kind of like, yeah, I think it would be great because when I give people a diagnosis of FSHD, what you have, I can steer them toward you, and you can be an example for other people how they could live their lives with this
That's great,
disease.
man. That's absolutely great.
Yeah, and I said that's great. I said, but what about giving money for research? And he's like, well, it would cost about 100 grand just for like a good animal model in a research facility. And I'm like, wait, 100 grand? Like I could do that. Like I think I could raise that. So what I realized was now you raise 50,000 here, 100,000 here. You start research projects in medical labs at universities and things like that, which we have. And that then grows to those guys make discoveries that then lead to millions of dollars in grants and NIH funding and things like that. That's how you cure disease. And so we try to do that. But the residual effects I'm talking about from that are suddenly now I'm getting emails and calls from people in South America, in Europe. I'm talking to a 16-year-old kid in Alabama. Jay, I had never even talked about my disease with close friends.
Yeah.
And now I'm
Same
sharing
thing with
my
my eye.
story
I
with
mean,
these people.
I didn't know what to perceive. I'm not equating me to you, but if you look at, I mean, it was obvious, what was going on with me, and I was just too embarrassed to tell anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
was stupid me sitting in the press box with binoculars watching the games because I couldn't see.
And
But
yeah, and it's where it also came to a head, like the other part of this now is as I get a little bit older, it's starting to be evident that I'm going to have to need some kind of a mobility device. And from the moment I was diagnosed with FSHD, and someone mentioned that that could be a possibility down the road, I was trying to outrun that wheelchair. And it gets to a point where I'm a professional, I'm out there, I'm out and about, I'm doing my thing, I'm traveling.
can I stop you a second, Chris?
Yeah.
How do you do the travel part of it? I mean, the NBA, you don't stay in cities for a long time and constantly on the go, on the go, on the go. I mean, how do you work that out?
Well, let me back up though. It gets to a point where I think it's getting too hard. Like it's getting too hard for me to walk up the stairs of the airplane. It's getting too hard for me to walk up the stairs onto the bus when we're traveling, and especially you're doing it, in the NBA, you're doing a back to back. You might be in 4 cities in 5 days, and
Right.
you're getting in the middle of the night.
Not like
And
baseball, where.
yeah, and I remember sitting in a hotel restaurant with my radio partner the last 24 years, Tim Capstraw, and guys had started to, a couple of guys on the team, our strength coach, one of our security guards, they had started really helping me to get up the stairs and things like that. And I sat down with Tim in the hotel because we're in Toronto and there was a little light snow falling. And it was at a point where I just couldn't go outside and walk in conditions like that because I might fall. And it was just too hard. So we stayed in the hotel. And I remember saying to Tim, I don't know if I can keep doing this. What if I'm going to need a wheelchair? How am I going to do this? And Tim just looked at me and he just said, well, you're not going to quit. Like, we will figure it out. We'll find a way to do stuff. And it changed my framing of my life. It wasn't like, all right, this disease is taking over my body. It's beaten me up to a point where I can't continue to do what I used to do the way I used to do it.
What year was this again, Chris?
This is around 2019, 2018. I started using the scooter in late 2019 after I had a particularly bad fall where I ended up needing knee surgery, and that pushes you too. And what I realized though is that, you know, I was always worried, prideful. I didn't want to present myself to the world in a wheelchair. And then I realized I was avoiding the things that I love doing. I was afraid to do things. I wasn't living the life way I wanted to. And the worst part of my life was not ending up using a wheelchair. It was the years leading up to it where I knew I should have been using it. And I made life hard on myself. And then you realize, that first time that I'm rolling into Barclays Center, the 2018 season ended, and now we're going into 1920 season. And, I left the arena walking one season. The next season, I'm rolling in. That was a really difficult thing for me emotionally. Seeing, I know everybody, Jay. I'm a big social being. I walk around, everybody knows me. I say hello to everybody. I talk to everybody, from the ushers to the concession guys to the guys working in the TV truck to the media people. And here I am now, and I'm rolling in, and I'm so self-conscious about it. And every time I saw somebody, I find myself explaining the wheelchair, explaining why I'm in this chair.
Right.
And it wasn't until the end of the night, I'm leaving, I see one of my friends from the team that I hadn't seen yet all night. And I'm doing it again. I'm starting to explain, well, and he stops me. He just goes, hey, I, you don't need to explain it. You deserve to be comfortable. I never thought about it like that. Suddenly I was just more comfortable and I could be myself again. And it was a great change. Once you get over yourself, once you go, oh, everybody's gonna look at me different. Nobody cares.
Right. I found
They
that I,
Yeah, they
exactly.
see you.
Yeah.
They see you, Jay. Like, they don't care that you've got an artificial eye. It's you. And you have to get comfortable with that. And
It took
then
me a
you
while.
yeah.
It took me a while, to be honest with you. I mean, I was about. So when you go, you make all the charters that they help you work it out. You make all the charters when you go city to city.
Yeah, well, so what's happened is the some of the cities, so we have a lift in where we get on in Newark, um, a lift that will take me up to the plane. And it depends on the city that we're in, that we're going to, if they have either a lift or they have a gate they can pull into. And, that's been something that's been a work in progress over the years, is working with the airline, working with the powers that be, or our people have been great about it. And then what ended up happening is, so in COVID, we were doing all the games remotely from the arena.
Right.
And, you know, the next year when we started up again and we were going to be traveling, um, there was a time where they would put me in this chair and carry me up the stairs. And some of our staffers would do it. And then the league was like, and the airline was like, this is kind of a liability here. What we get, sometimes you land and there's bad weather and things like that. Like, we can't have you, it's not safe. So we want to do it when there's a lift and everything. So the Nets came to me and said, hey, we know you did games remotely during COVID. Uh, if it's easier on you, would you like to continue to do that? And I said, absolutely not. Like, no, the job is to be in the arena. It's to be with the team all year and be a part of it. And that's the way I envision the job, and that's the way it's best done. And um, can we figure out another way? And they were like, well, listen, we'll, wherever we can get you on the charter, we can. And otherwise, you can go commercial. Tim will travel with you, and because commercial, it's accessible, and I can be on the charter. I can be there. So it makes it a little harder because you can't come home with the team after the game. But then we've kind of worked out a hybrid solution. So when I can be on the charter, I'll go, and when we can't, occasionally we'll go commercial, but otherwise we'll do the games remotely. So about half of our road schedule right now I do from the studio. And I've gotten really good. I did 3 Olympics,
You're in
numerous.
Beijing, right,
No,
Chris?
but I did them remotely on NBC. You
Right.
know, we the NBC used to do, half of their sports, from 30 Rock.
I remember. Yeah.
My first Olympics, I worked right on the soundstage where they do Saturday Night Live. Like, where they do
Wow.
the monologue is where my sound booth was set up, and I did basketball. Um, but so it's a hybrid system, and we've made it
making it
work. So
work.
I'm really good at doing games off a TV monitor, and then we
You're
do
making it work.
travel enough where we're with the team, and I get a
No,
chance to be around the team.
Chris, let me ask you about the team. For years, I was a PR guy with the Mets for 38 years. Now I do alumni relation. We were maybe battling the Yankees for attention and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the last couple of years, let me say, I don't want to be, the Nets haven't been great. We're lack of a better word.
Yeah.
We had the championships early in the finals. How hard is it? Basically a young roster, young team, a new coach. How hard is it to give it 190% every game when you know you're probably not going to make the playoffs this year?
I don't have an issue. I love doing what I do so much that it I just I'm so thrilled to get in front of a microphone and talk basketball every night with a guy that I love talking basketball with, and Tim Capstraw. And we part of what we do is to entertain the listener too. It's entertainment. And I the biggest compliment we get a lot of times is that people go, "Oh man, the team's so bad, and we don't really care about the games, but we tune in just to hear you guys." And it's a little bit of an antithesis from what Marty Glickman taught me when I was training under him at Fordham when I was a college student. Marty said, nobody tunes in to hear you; they hear the game. They want to hear the game. And we live in a different time now. There's a lot of things you can do and listen to and watch. And what makes the guy in his car want to listen to the second quarter of a game between a couple of teams at losing records in the middle of February? Well, it's because me and Capper will be talking about the game, and we'll have fun with you, and we're making movie references, and we're joking around, but we're serious about the game. Um, and I just love doing what I do, so I never look at it as, "Oh, man, this game tonight, like, these teams they're not very good." No, every night's a chance to walk into the arena and see what you maybe thought you'd never seen before. I mean, I did a game on TV the other day, and on, the Nets are playing the Bucks, and Bucks have no Giannis, and, Nets have a losing record, and the Nets ended up winning the game by 45 points. It
I
matched the
saw that.
franchise
Yeah,
record.
yeah.
Like, so, they matched the franchise record for their most lopsided win. And you never thought you were going to see that when you walked into the arena that night.
I
So it's all fun.
I've been with Mexico all the time, and I never let the win loss stuff affect how I did my job. I always 190%. Stop.
That's it.
Marty Glickman was one of my heroes. I'm a gigantic football giant fan, and tell me about the Fordham connection. Mike Breen, um, Jack Curry, the great Vince Scully. Who else am I missing?
Michael Kay,
Michael Kay, of course.
Bob Papa.
Bob Papa for the Giants. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
what is it
Ryan
about Fordham?
Rucco.
All those announcers.
Yeah, Ryan Rucco, Spiroditis, Mike Yam. I mean, there's numerous Andrew Bogish is out there. There's so many guys. My son now is Chris Carrino Jr. is a senior calling games at Fordham right now.
Wow.
So hopefully he'll be joining the Fordham contingent. I always felt like the one thing that all those guys have in common that you named is we're all from New York, or New Jersey. Like, we're all from the tri-state area. And Fordham was such a great training ground. Guys in my generation got to learn under Marty Glickman. And we all look out for each other. And I think there's that New York area sensibility that we all have that makes us relatable when we're connected to local teams. All those guys that I mentioned too are all connected to the local teams. Do we say Bob Papa too, the Giants? Like, we're all so New York people, New Jersey people, they connect with us with their teams. And we do it in a way that is professional and is on a level of where we're national guys. But we have that New York sensibility. I think that's always kind of been the glue of the Fordham connection.
Chris, let me of all the young guys, a lot of draft choices. Who are the best young guys in your mind that keep blossoming will be better. Maybe this year, the years to come. I mean, who do you look out for?
With the Nets right now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they made 5 first-round picks this year, which was a record, right? So everybody want to see how good these 5 young guys are, and all 5 have shown some promise. Yegor Dioman, the 8th pick in the draft, I mean, he's got a chance to be really good. He was been starting. Everybody's crazy about now Danny Wolf coming in, 6'11" guy who can handle the ball like a guard, and I mean he can do so many things, knocking down threes. He made a couple of big dunks too that got people excited. You can now play when he's playing point guard. You can play a lineup with like 5 guys that are 6'11". Um, and Drake Powell has looked like a kid that can really have a chance. Super athlete. And then the other guys, Ben Saraf and Nolan Traore, point guards that coming from Europe, getting a little time to develop. But the guy that stands out to me that people don't talk about, you talk about player development. There's a guy named Noah Clowney that they drafted. It's his 3rd year, so they drafted him 2 years ago. But he just turned 21 years old. Like you forget how young these kids are, and he's been averaging 16 a game as a starter. Like he's taken his game to another level in his 3rd year that I think is exciting. So the Nets have about 6 young guys, and Nick Claxton's only 26 years old, and he's playing like an all-star. He's had 2 triple doubles this year. So there's a lot, and they have a lot of cap space, and the coach is exceptional. They're winning so many. As we speak right now, Jay, they've won 4 of the last 6 games. And nobody expected that. So there's a lot of things I think to get excited about if you're a Net fan.
Well, good. You say, I know I won't hold it against you if you're a Yankee fan. You managed to watch some baseball. You do NFL games too for FAN, right? How many you did it during the basketball season too? Or
Yeah, I'm sorry, you broke up a
did
little
I
bit
lose
there,
you?
Jay, during your question.
I mean, in
Yeah, you're
addition to
good.
the
You're okay.
basketball stuff, you do NFL games on radio. You
Yeah,
do the
and
NFL games
and
too, Chris?
I love the NFL. I absolutely love it. And I've been doing the Giants preseason games. When Bob Papa does TV, I'll go over and do radio for him. I've been doing that for almost 20 years, and NFL for Compass Media Networks for 17 seasons. Brian Balding is my partner there. As we speak now, I'm getting ready to do. I got the Steelers and the Lions in a big game in Week 16 in Detroit, and that's even other
Good
thing.
for you.
My neighbor travels with me for that to help me out so I can get around and with my chair and stuff and rental cars and things like that. But I just love it. Every game's such an event once a week. So I love football, and I've also done you talk about baseball. I was one of the first guys that filled in for John Sterling when he started missing a few games. I did a game for John, and I sat in with Susan. I've done some Compass Media Networks years ago. Had a bunch of Angels games, and I did their East Coast games, and so I love Major League Baseball too as well. And one of the favorite things I love to do in the off season is go to ball games. So I'm a big
We're
baseball
gonna
guy, and,
get
and
you.
I'll give you, I'm not a Jay, I'm not a Met fan,
That's
but
okay.
I'm not a Met fan, but I was at Game 6 in '86. I was
Wow.
in the mezzanine, and Shea Stadium. I thought the mezzanine was going to fall
Was
down.
gonna fall down that day.
When
Yeah,
the
but
ball
next
went
year
through
is 40
Buckner's legs,
years.
I thought I was scared.
Next year, Chris, 40 years from that, we're going to celebrate that team next year. And before I forget, how could people contribute to your foundation if they wanted to? Is there, a page or a number
Yeah.
or email?
ChrisCarrinoFoundation.org. There's a link to it through our social media on X Carrino FSHD, or Instagram Carrino FSHD. And the big thing about it, Jay, is that, like I said, we fund seed research. And when you donate $10, $20, thousands of dollars, it all adds up, and everything we raise goes to seed research, which leads to more intense research, more investment. There's more going on now in the world of FSHD, in a big part because we started, in 2011. Uh, Discoveries have been made through things that we have funded. And when I say we, I mean every person who donates $10, goes to one of our events or something like that, $20, buys a raffle ticket. Like, that changes people's lives. And anything you can, chriscarrinofoundation.org is the way to do it.
Chris, I admire you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great stuff, and again, thank you for your time. And we'll let you know when this drops the next week or two. Let you know.
Jay, it's always any time, man. I really enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much for
Thank you. I
having me
appreciate
on.
your time.